that I picked up was Remains of Spring by Jibon Krishna Goswami. And this is actually a translated book from Ahomya, and the original title is Auliangor Jui. And this, I saw it in the library when I went to return my books and pick new ones. It was just calling out to me. Okay, I read the title and then I read this subtitle, A Naga Village in the No Man's Land, and I was like, I have got to read this. Okay, like once I leave from here, I would never be able to come across books like this, regional fiction from my country, especially translated ones like this, which aren't very popular. Will never come across them again. So I've got to make the most of my current circumstances, my current library and all. So I picked this up, and this is basically set in the kind of bordering region, the strip of land between the borders of India and Myanmar, and this is set during the 1980s. So as of now, that kind of liminal space, which belongs to neither country, does not exist anymore. It has become absorbed by the two borders, kind of like converging, and now this place does not exist as a kind of no man's land. Obviously, the piece of land is still there, but it falls under either the domicile of India or Myanmar. And it's set in a Konyak village there called Hoyat. And yeah, I read this book. I picked this solely for the setting because I really love the northeast region of my country. I think it is a marvelous place. I am in awe of all the diverse cultures and ethnic groups who populate that region. But thinking about all the injustices that people, especially along the bordering regions, suffer has always made me really sad, especially in that time period where these states were, they were getting their own independent statehoods, and the consolidation of the Indian nation was happening, and all kinds of struggles were happening. And well, insurgency, I wouldn't really call it insurgency, because once you read books like this, you really think of it from a different perspective. I've always had a bit of a qualm with calling those rebel movements insurgency, because I mean, at the end of the day, the reason they are protesting is because their rights are being taken away. Their ancestral land is literally being exploited, those resources are being looted. The land that their ancestors have lived in for millennia, that they call home, is being fought over like a scrap by foreign powers, and they really have no say in what is happening to them. Their way of life, their culture, their languages are being eradicated. They're being like cast aside, and they can only stand by and watch. So it is obvious that a lot of people will be very unhappy with what is happening to them, because it is unfair, it is unjust, and so they would naturally take up arms against this oppression that is happening to them. And yeah, that is what Remains of Spring chronicles. So the title Auliang Jui literally means the fires of Auliang, and initially it didn't really make sense to me why the title is the way it is, but after reading the book, it does make sense. Auliang is the spring harvest festival of the Konyak people, and that's why it's called Remains of Spring, because Auliang takes place during spring. And yeah, in this village, Hoyat, they have been dealing with a really terrible state of existence where either the Indian army or the Myanmar army constantly encroaches on their village, just fights with the people there, thinking that they are rebels or at least sheltering them, and just shells it from time to time. And these explosions cause the village to burn down like every couple of years, and they have to like go into hiding in the jungle, return back once their village has been burned to the ground, and then rebuild again over and over and over again. Like, can you imagine living in such a situation where your home is just getting burned down? You're no fault of your own, again and again and again, and you just have to pick up the ashes and keep going. And yeah, that's why it's called Fires of Auliang, because during the spring festival, when they should be celebrating their harvest, when they should be having a good time resting and preparing for the new season, they instead have to literally build their village up from scratch due to the fires that rage due to the bombing. So yeah, this is translated by Manjeet Barua from the Ahomya, and the author kind of bases the main character in this on himself. So the main character, Atanu, is a teacher in Assam, and due to a mutual acquaintance, he somehow ends up going to the village of Hoyat at the request of a villager there called Anyam. And when he shows up there, the people are elated because now their children will finally have access to proper education. And they think that that will be their ticket out of this misery that they live in. And unfortunately, things don't go to plan. When Atano reaches the village, it has once again just been burned down and people are rebuilding. And through his eyes, we kind of observe what life is like living in a war zone in this liminal space that does not fall within the border of any country, following a people who have been torn apart by these two powers fighting over their land, who have no say in their future, in their current lives. And it's just really miserable. I thought from the premise it would kind of be like Lunana, that Bhutanese movie where a teacher from Thimphu goes to this really remote region, very rural region in, was it Laya? Not sure. I think he goes to Laya. And over there he teaches the kids in the local school, and yeah, it's a pretty transformative experience for him, and the students also gain a really good education. And I thought it would be similar to that. However, in this book, despite Atano being a teacher, literally no teaching gets done. It's just kind of a slice of life almost. I hesitated to say it because slice of lives are usually cozy and comforting, and this was certainly not that. It just, through his eyes, we see what the reality of these people are. Like, we see them go about the motions of everyday life, but then over it all just looms this cloud of impending war, impending destruction. You see how people, despite their situation, try to make the best of it and keep living with hope. Like, the arrival of Atano is a symbol of their hope that the future will get better. This is by no means a slow paced book, things are constantly happening. However, the plot doesn't really have a direction. Like, it's not kind of like from point A to B, these things happen. It's mostly like just meandering as we see just small snippets of how life is like in a Konyak village in that time period. And yeah, I can't really comment on the writing style because this is a translated work of fiction. I don't speak Ahomya, so I don't know how it would sound like in the original language. The translation, I guess the translator did a pretty good job, and it's all right when he's just describing dialogue or like just the regular narration. However, there are several points where Atano is having, I don't know, introspective philosophical musings, and those are always really weird. They don't feel clunky, they just feel bizarre. And apologies if there are now background noises. There's a temple procession happening, and I don't know how long that will take, so I'm just going to speed through. So yes, Auliang Arjui, or Remains of Spring, a really very harrowing read, kind of bleak, but unlike an LG for Easterly, this had a lot of hope in it, hope that unfortunately gets dashed time and time again, but still a very important read. If you are Indian, you definitely should read it. Even if you aren't, just read it, because it doesn't hurt to know more about history. And as of the situation now, as I said, Hoyat would right now probably be part of the Indian territory in Nagaland. And yeah, things are much better now. Like, people are more or less all right, and the government has improved. It's still nowhere near perfect, but at least they have a lot more autonomy and they can decide their lives now under their state governments. And yeah, things aren't perfect, they never are, but we're slowly getting there, and hopefully things will look much better in a couple more decades. That's the situation everywhere in the country. Can't do much about it except hope, and that's the main point of this book. Hope that things will improve in the future. The procession's starting again, so I'm gonna stop it here. Really chaotic ending, and I hope you enjoyed this new place where I'm doing my videos. Thought it would be more cozy and also more comfortable for me. and it works with the timing. Even though there's still disturbances from the road, not as much as in front of my bookshelf. Alright, so maybe this is going to be a permanent location. And with that said, I hope you had a great month of reading in February. March should be better. It might be, hopefully, at least you get 3 more days. Okay, 3 more days is pretty cool. And yeah, just stay safe and happy reading. I'll catch you all in my next video. Until next time, 再见.